And so, as you finally get settled in your seats, I am so excited to bring out this executive panel for us. And the team is going to put the slide up now so you can see who's going to be working with me on this stage this afternoon. And here comes that slide any second with the magic of technology. There we go. So joining me on stage in just 1 second is Eva Fong, the Chief Financial Officer of Well Health. There we go. A couple of fans in the house. That's great. Stacey Norman is the Senior Vice President, Human Resources. Yeah, we have a Ledcor group here today. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And Jessie Finkelstein is the co-founder and principal of Page 2 Books. Please welcome her and all of them to the stage if you would. Come on and join me. Eva, thank you so much. Stacey right here, and Jessie, if you'd be kind enough to take the seat there. And wow, I love this because this is our opportunity to, again, really connect with people who are actually doing what you're doing. But why don't we take a quick survey of the audience to see what level within the organizations people are at. So if you are a vice president or in the C-suite of your organization, please raise your hand and wave at us here on stage. Let's take a look for a few of you. Okay, awesome. You've risen to that level. Congratulations. What about if you're a director or a manager within your organization? Raise your hand. Look at that. Wow, quite a few directors and managers. And what about if you're an individual contributor? Raise your hand and wave at us if you're an individual contributor. There we go. Oh, quite a few as well. And keep waving really vigorously at us if you want to get into a director, manager, vice president, C-suite role. If that's your ambition. Okay, there we go. We've got a few of you. Even better, thank you. We want to know that that's where you want to get going. So people are paying attention to that. I think somebody was taking some names down there on stage here. I'm not sure, Stacey. Let's see. But I have a number of questions that we wanted to engage in and have an incredible conversation. And so first and foremost, for all of you, Jessie, maybe we can start with you on the end, if you don't mind. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Sort of where did you start in business, and how did you get to being a co-founder and principal of a Page 2 publishing book company?
Thanks, Bill. I'm so honored to be here. I got my start in business out of my passion, which is books. I am a book nerd and a book lover, and someone who realized that actually what I really love about books are the authors. So I co-founded a company, a book publishing company, that supports the work of brilliant thought leaders, authors, people who are making incredible change in the world. And that's what I do day to day. It's my joy, and I'm so grateful to do it. And I have to say, two incredible people in this room are published authors of Page 2, I'm proud to say. Bill is one, so let's give a big hand to him.
Thank you.
And the incredible Dr. Robin Henley Defoe.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jessie. Stacey, what about you? Where'd you get started? Where are you now?
Where I got started was really through the influence of my parents. So my father was a businessman in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, so got my roots there. Really went into business because I thought I was going to be an accountant. Bill, believe it or not. Failed my first accounting midterm, realized I should not be an accountant. Loved business though, and actually moved into majoring through my Bachelor of Commerce in Human Resources Management, because I found it really fascinating to understand kind of the human aspect of business, and how do we get the best out of people when they're at work, and how do we create the environment for them to succeed. So came out of business school, went into oil and gas, moved from Saskatoon to Calgary. That was my big move in life. Worked in energy, oil and gas most of my career, and I keep moving west. Now I've joined Ledcor and moved to Vancouver, and am enjoying it.
Beautiful. For those that don't know the Ledcor group, what does Ledcor do?
The Ledcor group of companies is a diversified construction business. We call ourselves a construction company, but we're really, 10 or a dozen businesses that are very different in nature. We have helicopters, airplanes, boats, tugs, barges. We install and connect internet to homes and businesses. We build roads, we build buildings, we build residential complexes. It's just a fascinating, interesting business across all of North America, and growing like crazy, so wow. Super exciting.
What do you guys do after coffee in the morning? That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of stuff. Thank you so much, Stacey. I'm thrilled you're here with us. Eva Fong.
Hi, my name is Eva Fong. I was born and raised in Hong Kong. My parents sent me to school in Ontario, Windsor, Ontario, when I was 13. That's when I started my immigrant international student journey in Canada. And then I finished, I spent times in going to school in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Hawaii, Florida, and I moved back to Vancouver about 30 years ago and stayed in tech all my career. So currently I'm CFO for Well Health Technologies. Well Health is a physician-enabled digital healthcare company based in, headquartered in Vancouver. We started 4 years ago. Started with 6 employees. I was one of the 6. And today we employ over 2,800 employees and physicians, medical practitioners, all across Canada and US. We are the largest outpatient clinical medical clinics in Canada, and we serve over 21,000 practitioners all across Canada.
Wow. Obviously, you've got applause from the audience unsolicited, and so quite an accomplishment as well. So I'm so excited to hear all of your stories and what you have to share with us. Stacey, I'm going to open up with you on this next question. What do you believe are the most important attributes of successful leaders today?
Well, that's a great question. I think we're all striving to be better leaders, and I know I'm continually learning and growing, and working with our leaders at Ledcor. I'm super fortunate to work with a really great group who are really interested in creating the environment for people to be successful. I think that's what a great leader does, where people feel valued and respected, and they really feel like they can bring their whole selves to work. And one of the first things I think we need to do as leaders, Bill, is work on ourselves and be very self-aware and understanding where our strengths are, where are the areas that we want to work on, and how to balance that and manage that across the team. And along with that, I think just being very authentic and genuine. So be yourself. Let people see your real self. Don't feel as a leader that you need to put on that mask or pretend that you have the answers all the time. So being authentic and genuine, being transparent with your people about what you are working on, what you're trying to learn. And finally, I think the biggest aspect is just courage. Just have the courage to move ahead, make decisions, take action, even if you don't know how it's going to turn out, because people are looking to you to provide that guidance, that vision, that clear purpose, and they want to follow you, and they want to see that you have an action-oriented kind of focus and move the team ahead.
Beautiful. Wow. You immediately jumped me right into Brené Brown and her Netflix special on courage and vulnerability, and how they're almost interchangeable. You know, in order to have courage, you need to be vulnerable. In order to be vulnerable, you need to have courage. And I'm really excited that you chose courage as the word to drive that. So thank you. Thank you for that. Eva, what about your experience? What do you think the skills are that leaders need today?
To me, the most important aspect is really building trust. Building trust, building relationship, doesn't matter, vendors, customers, your patients, your colleagues. Really, people run businesses. To really have the trust and relationship with all your ecosystem, it's really what drives us every day. And to drill down a little bit more, how do you build trust and relationship? To me, is really respect. I think some of the speakers talked about this morning. Really respect everyone, doesn't matter what age, gender, financial background, your education background. Why does it matter? Respect every single individual as a person.
Brilliant. And so you're taking me back to my mother again, which I so appreciate. Some of the best lessons in life we learn from the women in our lives. And she said, Billy, always live by the golden rule. And so treat people the way you want to be treated. And I'm like, that's really cool, Mom. Until I was about 45 years old. And then I realized how disrespectful it was to treat people the way that I wanted to be treated, because it assumes everybody wants to be treated like I do. And so then I had the opportunity to be elevated to the platinum role. And so my mother helped me learn that that lesson is really treating people the way they want to be treated. But now I need to get to know you, and I have to learn a little bit more about you. And then I have to remember that. So respect is critical. Thank you. Thank you. Jesse, what would you add?
I'm so fortunate because we publish so many authors who are writing amazing books about leadership. So we get to watch not only see the result of the book, but we're in it, building it with them. We think and talk about this stuff a lot. So forgive me if I'm actually cribbing some of your book or Dr. Robin Hanley Defoe's, but I think about joy a lot, and I think that great leaders, if they can enable joy at the most profound level, will see incredible results in the broadest sense. And I know that might sound a bit glib. We're coming out of a pandemic. There are incredibly challenging things we're all dealing with. But I think about the flow state, how we like to enable our team and ourselves to be in a state of flow. I equate that with joy. And when one of my team members says they feel incredibly joyful about a project or about the work that they did in a project, I know that is the ultimate state that they should be in. So if I can do that in big and small ways, both with our authors and with our team, I think we're all winning. We feel it, and it comes back around.
Beautiful. I have great hope for the future. Eva, I'm coming to you next. We're about to hear from Arlene Dickinson on the concept of reinvention and locating one's sense of purpose by realistically evaluating one's strengths and weaknesses. In times of uncertainty, how do you successfully motivate your team to transformative change and give their very best?
Right. Of course, right? We've all been through the COVID and pandemic in the last 2 years. The one, I guess, one of the most influential project that we've done is we have the telehealth platform. We actually had that platform before COVID, but it was very low adoption because nobody wanted to change, right? It's hard to make change. But as soon as the COVID hit, we rolled out the telehealth platform to all our practitioners and to patients, and we had a triage. We have all departments, medical directors, medical staff, and finance, IT. Everybody got together. We had a daily triage to really roll out the telehealth platform so that doctors, patients can continue to deliver and receive the essential health services they need during the pandemic. So it was very successful. We basically onboarded a few hundred doctors in weeks. And being the CFO and being in finance, we needed to provide daily metrics and to the triage team to make sure they make decision daily, because again, it's a lot of change. We don't know what's happening and all the different health authority guidelines. It's really hard to digest and kind of understand what we're doing. So, but we roll it out very successfully. And our number one strategy to when we do the triage is safety. Safety for our doctors, safety for our patients. And so we did it really well. And again, I want to take this opportunity to really, ask the audience, raise your hand if you're part of the healthcare ecosystem. Raise your hand.
High, raise it really high so we can see it from the stage.
And
wow.
we have our own doctor, Dr. Abraham, in the audience as well, and a few clinic managers and medical staff. So thank you very much again. It was really hard. We're in the business. We know how hard it was to really manage and support everyone during the pandemic.
Now, speaking of change, yes. Speaking of change, I hear a lot of people are so loving that new system, they're not really wanting to go back to the in-person system. Is that true?
That's true. That's true.
Okay, so we'll get ready for another change.
That's right.
Stacey, what are some thoughts for you?
Sure, I just wanted to add on to what Eva was saying. I was thinking about this question and thinking about in times of transformative change. I think it's really important to connect people to a higher sense of purpose. So Eva, you walked right into it for me. It's about safety.
Yeah.
It's about safety. So connect people to a purpose. Why are we doing this? And what is your part in adding value and contributing to this successful achievement of this purpose? And what you also mentioned was measure, set goals, show people what good looks like, and help them understand that they're moving towards achievement of that goal and that everybody contributes toward that.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you. Jesse, I'm going to start with you. This morning, we addressed the importance of recognizing mental health issues in order to achieve wellness and peak performance. Currently, approximately 1 in 5 Canadians will personally experience a mental health problem or illness, many of who obviously will be women. How is your organization addressing the rise in mental health issues in the workplace?
I think on this panel, I certainly represent the small and medium-sized organization, and I think that it's fitting that I'm answering the question because often we think about mental health support and other programs as being maybe inaccessible at certain levels, right? Oh, that's the kind of thing you can hire a consultant or have an entire team to support at a larger company. But I think at all levels, if you're intentional about it, we must be intentional about it, and we must put that intention into action. So even at our level, for example, through the pandemic, we brought in some of our authors who are experts in mental health and mental wellness to come in and speak and do workshops for our team. We doubled down on mental health benefits, in particular within our benefits program. So even within a smaller context, we still made it a priority, and we continue to make it a priority at a structural level. I'll say beyond that, we also think about the connectivity within our team, the team connection, and amongst our authors as well, as being a mental health initiative. Things that we took for granted before when we were together in an office, for instance, or together in person more often, that we could just do without thinking. Now we have to be absolutely intentional about it. And that's not just about team building, it's not just about having fun together and the social connections, but it's actually about taking care of one another. So we think about that, and we are intentional about it at both a notional, looser level and the structural level, both.
Beautiful. And I had the privilege of being a part of that because we had a holiday celebration, if I recall. Humor being one of Dr. Robin Hanley Defoe's concept. There was a lot of humor at that gathering. And so how do we take advantage of those opportunities is great. Thanks. Eva, what would you say?
Yeah, so our company, we brought in two programs for our employees and doctors. First one is focusing on wellness. It's called Bright. It's an online wellness program. People can basically, it is live instructor, but people can do yoga, mindfulness, fitness, online. And we also brought in another company called Focus Mental Wellness. It's an online therapy. So we noted, again, we wanted to make sure that we have more tools and that's easy, convenient for our staff and doctors so that they can use anytime they want.
Beautiful. Now, I'm going to go off script on you here just for a moment. We'll see. Anyone can take this question if you choose to, but what about the stigma? And when I say that, I think, if somebody has, God forbid, cancer, and they need to have therapy and treatment, everybody's like, take the time that you need, it's okay, like, do what you need to do, we'll be here for you when you get back. But when somebody's off on depression, a mental health issue, oftentimes around what were the water coolers, you see the eye rolls and the questions around, really, like, seriously? How long are they, when are they ever going to be back? So do you have any thoughts about how we might break some of the stigma? Stacey is nodding away.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So I love the perspectives of my fellow panelists because we are a pretty large company. Ledcor, we're over 8,000 employees. We're spread out across the country and the continent. And so I love, there's a saying that I heard recently, which is relationships make the company feel smaller. So I truly believe that building a sense of community where we can have real, open conversations with each other builds that sense of community and starts to put us all more on a level playing field. One of the things that we did at Ledcor just last year, in addition to the programs and the great tools we have in place, is we started getting our senior leaders together for panels to talk. We call them Ledcor Talks. And one of our topics was mental health. And that was a hugely impactful piece where employees could join a call and see some of our very top executives talking about, and you mentioned it, Bill, the vulnerability. Talking about experiences, talking about what's happened to both themselves and their families, and putting it more out there that it's okay to have the conversations and connect on that human level, because at the root we're all kind of dealing with the same struggles.
Thank you. And I invite all of us to really think about our vocabulary. My mother has suffered from mental health issues. She was bipolar. And so it's important to me that we break the stigma. And so think about the words that we use regularly and requesting an apology before I even say some of them, because in some cases, again, microaggressions, we don't even realize it. But when somebody says I was crazy, anything, that's a mental health world. Google it, take a look at the definition. When somebody says that was very, and again, requesting the apology first, OCD of me, that's somebody's mental health issue. So those are microaggressions to people that do suffer from those things. And so how do we hold each other to a higher level with those things? Any advice, Eva?
Yeah, and I think that some of the speakers have spoken about that this morning. It's really listen. Really practice your listening skills, right? If we haven't suffer from depression, we don't know how they feel. So really listen to them and share, and just have them, give them a channel to vent, and so we will listen to them, right? And see how we can help.
Another piece of vocabulary is watch out when we say I understand. No, you don't. You really don't understand me and what I've gone through and how I got here and what's going on. All right, let's take a look. Stacey, so continuing this general direction then, Dr. Hadia Roderick explained how diversity and inclusion leads to more empowered and innovative organizations. What steps can leaders and organizations as a whole take with respect to diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Great. Well, Ledcor is very proud to have been recognized as one of Canada's best diversity employers for 2022. By the editors of the Canada Top 100 Awards. And my colleagues and I joke that we must have got the most improved award because we are working on it. So we are working on it. We have some very key executive sponsors who are passionate about this topic. And I think if I start with organizations, I think you really get a lot of value the more clear you are about expectations around our value sets and the kind of culture that we want to create. And so Ledcor's issued an I&D statement that is very clear about the kind of corporate culture we want to create, that we're working on. We've also invested very heavily in putting the structures in place to support I&D efforts, and we say inclusion and diversity. We say inclusion first because we really want to promote a culture where everyone feels included and can belong. So investing in the structures, we have executive council in place, we have very senior leaders that are taking their time to help us move this initiative forward and this focus forward. We have advisory councils where we've got groups of employees, many are here today, so shout out to my colleagues who have worked tirelessly to help us move ahead and provide advice and guidance to the executives. We have employee resource groups, 5 very active groups that are working towards building the culture that we want to have and providing a sense of community for underrepresented groups. And then, we've got a lot of those structures in place so that then we can build on what we're focusing on is education and communication. So really learning. Listening, learning, helping to understand what terms are just not great, what's not appropriate, toolkits for leaders to use with their teams to start the conversations about what's going on and about how we can all help create the kind of company we want to be. And I would say, so with those organizational structures in place, I mean, I'm an HR realist. I'm like, the best programs and processes in the world are not going to solve the issue. It's the decisions and the actions that leaders take every day that will have this live in our organization. And so, in answer to the question around what can leaders do, it goes back to courage and vulnerability. Find the tools, use the tools, start the conversation, even though you might not have the right answers. And Eva, I'll go back to what you said around, like, listen. Listen to the experiences that your folks are having and move it forward.
In some cases, maybe we even just need to listen to ourselves. Did I actually say that word? Did I really say that out loud? And then correct ourselves. If you ever get an email from me, my signature line is a quote from Dr. Maya Angelou, and do the very best you can until you know better. And when you know better, do better. And if you're going to apologize, it's an Eastern proverb, but if you're going to bow, bow low, meaning like truly apologize, truly be okay with that. Jesse, I'm going to come to you next then. Based on your experience, what are some strategies that can help women achieve a more prominent role within their organization?
I'm a huge believer in collaboration and particularly partnership. To me, it's important to avoid loneliness at all costs. I think that it can, we were talking about this earlier, in large organizations and small, no matter how many people you have around you, we can feel isolated and lonely. And I think in order to really support one another, I think to do it at the most grassroots level possible can be an incredibly powerful and empowering concept. So trying to enable partnership, people coupling up and teaming up, even at different levels of the organization, or different people who wouldn't necessarily connect with one another. I think it's really important to support those kinds of connections that then you can build on to avoid loneliness and make people feel empowered, both in terms of what they are showing up to do at work and also what they do in the world, who they are as a person. So I think if we can do that at a micro level, it multiplies and has a really powerful macro effect.
Beautiful. I think, the pandemic, as horrendous as it was and terrible as it was, it required us to do a number of transformations. One of them being the digital transformation, so thanks to every technical firm out there in the world. But in the office, we just walk by and say, how are you? And I'm fine, and you just keep walking. And now within our Zoom calls, I'm really noticing that a lot more people are really taking that time to just check in. How are you? Are you okay? What's going on? And again, getting back to your point, really listening.
But to your point, often it doesn't happen over Zoom. That's kind of what I'm thinking about. Often on a Zoom with 5, 10, 20 people or more, you'll get straight to the work at hand. Whereas if you can facilitate the ongoing connections, even at a distance, even remotely, and know that there's a buddy system of some kind where there are people who are going to look after one another, then you know that you're taking care of those extra connections. And I think that's where we as leaders have a responsibility to make sure, like you said, Stacey, we don't have all the answers. We can't take care of everybody, but we can enable and empower others to take care of themselves. I think at page 2, early in the pandemic, when things were so uncertain, profoundly uncertain, we set up an ombudsperson role where there were 2 people designated within the company. As small as we are, Trina and I said, we know you might not feel comfortable coming to us given how unprecedented everything is. And by the way, we're trying to make sure we stay afloat, so we might not be accessible. So I think that empowered a less, let's say, hierarchical conversation at different levels of the company that freed people up to talk and to say the real stuff. So we had to kind of step out of the way to start some really powerful conversations that then made us able to go and take care of people who spoke up under those circumstances who wouldn't. So just to your point about Zoom, we have to be, I think, extra careful. Things that we won't notice about how people might be suffering or lonely.
So I'm hearing do it with intention. Yeah. Stacey.
We have several leadership development programs at Ledcor, and I'm not a big theory sort of person, and I'm sort of a street MBA HR person. One thing that stuck with me, though, in one of the models that our facilitators were talking about was the phrase connection before content. And so this morning, there was a phrase connection before, I can't remember, correction. Thank you. The crowd knows.
Yes.
So I resonate with that, a connection before correction, but also connection before content. I start my meetings, literally the agenda item says connection before content. And we are going to talk about how things are going. We're going to get to know you a little bit more. I'm reading, speaking of Brene, huge fan, reading Atlas of the Heart. So I'm from Saskatchewan. There are 2 emotions, angry or happy. And if you're anything else, you're fine. You're just fine. Who knew there were like 84 of them? or something. And so you can use tools, and I'm learning all the time, so you can use tools to really articulate as a leader. So send the signal as a leader. It's important to connect before you get to the content, and also show that you're learning, that there are more than two emotions and more than two ways to just say fine, busy, etc.
Unless you're from Saskatchewan.
Unless you're from Saskatchewan.
Okay.
Come and chat with me later.
For me, again, being a visible minority, it's not easy. It's really hard. But advocate for yourself, right? When I was younger, when I was young, building my career, I used to think that, hey, to be a leader, you need to be an extrovert. You need to be good at public speaking. And but throughout the learning process in the last 30 years, I found that people respect you as a leader when through your action, not just by your speaking and your on what you say. Your action will really prove yourself that people will respect you. And so my advice to the team is continue to learn, advocate for yourself, and think go out of your comfort zone. I'm an introvert. I'm going out of my comfort zone today to speak in front of you. So.
Well done. Well done. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I want to come back to this question, and Eva, I'm going to start with you, if I may, as well, because it sort of blends on from there. In the world of talent strategy, there's long been a debate about which is needed more, mentorship or sponsorship. And so in your opinion, what are the key differences between them?
Yeah, to me, mentorship is getting feedback, learning from others, learning from the experience. It doesn't have to be the mentor that you know. You can have mentor that's is inspiring leaders that you can read their audiobook, their YouTube. To me, sponsorship is more about someone that believes in you. Someone sees your potential, they support you, then in your network to help you with whatever you need their help with. So I'm going to share a personal experience. When I was pregnant with my first child, I quit my job, and so when my girl was 3 months old, I went back and started a new job. And I insisted on breastfeeding until my girl doesn't need me anymore. And so every lunchtime in the new job, I go to the bathroom and pump milk, and so that I can continue to work as a working mom. Then and then of course my boss, who's a key sponsor in my life, she basically told me that there's this gym in the building, the company gets a free membership. Why don't you use the change room to do your pump every day? So I took her offer, and I continued for a few months. But a few weeks later, being in accounting, see some of the accounting record, I saw a personal check from Karen, my mentor, my boss. She personally basically sponsored me, use her own personal money, and pay for the gym membership, but she did not tell me that. So to me, she made a positive impact in my life. She sponsored me to allow me to continue to work as a working mom and build my career. So that's just basically, I want to share the story with you to say that we can do all small things every day to hopefully make a positive impact to the people around us.
Wow, thank you. There's recognition for that. And that's one side of it. Again, I'm going off book on you again, but as I try to educate myself and learn more, you're talking about the early parts of motherhood. But one of the other bigger issues that's coming along, especially to women that are in senior roles within an organization, is the other part of that woman's journey, which is menopause, and how challenging it is. And so it's probably too early for all of you to address this in any way, shape, or form, but do any of you...
Oh, you just had to say that.
But...
Don't get me started.
Thank you.
So what are there things that we can be doing and learning now, if you will, around that? I mean, I always remember working with a woman, and she was just perspiring profusely, and I was like, how can I help you?
Thank you for going off script. That is a great question. Really.
I really want to dig into
Let's
this
talk
one.
about that.
Help us learn.
Well, you know, it's quite interesting that you raised that. And it's sort of like one of the last frontiers that it's still okay to joke about. Like I don't mean to bring it down, but you know, it is one of those pieces where I think people take it lightly, and it can be a horrific experience, extremely challenging, both mentally and physically, to go through that transition. And some of us are luckier than others. But you raise a great point, and I'll bring it back to language, Bill. Like, who hasn't either been in a meeting or a conversation of suddenly you're fanning yourself, and at my age it's easy to say, oh, going through one of those hot flashes, and I'm sort of like, actually I'm extremely uncomfortable, thank you, and I'm not sure why that's funny, but it's one of those last frontiers, isn't it?
Well, I think especially as it intersects with mental health, that is the key. It's incredibly it can be incredibly challenging physically, menopause, perimenopause, the many years that precede perimenopause, where perimenopause seems to encroach, but also mental health and shifts that are provoked. There's some discussion, probably not enough, about postpartum depression, for example, but I think that we're learning now more and more about women's health, much too late and not enough, but we're learning more in the way that it affects us. So I think as leaders within companies, to get these conversations going and figure out how we can support women's mental and physical health, and the connection between the both is utterly crucial.
Beautiful. Well, thank you for, yeah. Candor is so critical, and so let's take it from that part to your younger self. And let me hear from each of you, if you will. Maybe, Eva, we can start with you and work our way through. What advice would you give to young women who are starting off in their career? What would you say to your younger self?
So similarly what I've said before, advocate for yourself. Build your own treasure chest, your Swiss Army knife, right? People can take our house away, they can take our clothes away, they cannot take what we learn and the value that we learn every day. Continue to learn, and doesn't matter, whether soft skills, technical skills, continue to learn. And I want to give, bravos to all of you here. You're here today because you're learning. You're adding your value to your own treasure chest.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much. Stacey.
So advice to young women would be, start building your network sooner than you think you need to. Start building relationships, make connections, and create a community of support around you. And the piece that goes with that for me is lift each other up. Don't compete. It wounds me. It makes me very sad to see that women still compete with each other. Maybe it's for the coveted spot. As we get more spots, that should reduce. But lift each other up and support each other and be each other's best champion.
I love it. Be champions for each other. If you have questions about building your network, someone who has been on our stage, but it was many years ago now, but her name is Porter Gale, and her book is Your Network is Your Net Worth. And so really look at building that network of sponsors and champions and mentors, and think about paying it forward as well, as you experience. Stacey, more?
Yeah, I really just would not be where I am today without that network and people to rely on. There's that other sort of coined phrase around who's your personal board of directors, who's the one that's going to challenge you, who's the one that's going to commiserate with you, who's the one that's going to just tell a dirty joke with you and have a glass of wine. All of those folks get you to where you are.
Beautiful. Arlene Dickinson may have something to say about that when she comes out here in a couple of minutes, but well done, Jesse.
Could I just say what Stacey said? I thought actually what Eva said too. I think I would just add to that. It really is about the people who are around you and who can support and uplift you. And now that I have a daughter and a son, I often think, what would I say to them? And I do say a lot to them, give them a lot of advice. And often in navigating things myself, I think, well, what would I want my daughter to do when she's my age? And that's a really fast way to clear through a lot of clutter and to figure out exactly what I should do for myself. So yeah, trust yourself and trust the amazing partners and people you bring close to you over the years.
Excellent, excellent. And so just as we have a couple of minutes left, as you look to the future, Eva, what are you excited about? Looking at this audience, knowing the potential that's out there, what are you excited about?
I'm really excited about changing healthcare. Leveraging technology to make it easier and better so that we can control our own health.
Beautiful, thank you, thank you. Stacey, what are your thoughts?
I'm just excited by the energy that comes with connecting and creating community. I'm excited to create more of those spots for women and underrepresented groups at the top of the house. And just excited to see where the future is going to take us, because I think if we keep listening and learning and having the courage to ask the right questions and move ahead and develop, I think we'll all get to a much better place.
Oh, wow, I have hope. Hashtag hope. And hope is a strategy, so that's a good thing.
Strategy. I have been called the eternal optimist, and I said, well, why wouldn't you want to be the eternal optimist?
Yes, great point. Jessie.
I love that not only is it okay now to bring emotion and emotional intelligence into leadership, now it's a mandate in many of our organizations. It's an absolute urgent imperative, as the incredible leaders this morning have been sharing with us. And that really, I feel relieved by that and excited by that, that we can show up at work with our full humanity. And I love that women are absolutely leading the charge in this way.
Yes. Wow. So gratitude, as Dr. Robin Hadley Defoe would say, is a great way to end each day. And so I am so grateful for your wisdom, for your experience, for your courage, and for your vulnerability in sharing with us here today your experiences of not only where you are today, but how you got here and some of your thoughts and hopes for the future. I'm wondering what it was like for the audience to eavesdrop in on a personal conversation amongst 3 female executives. Yeah. So Eva, Stacey, Jessie, thank you so much for your courage to come up on stage with us here today. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the conference.